Students, please do join our live so that we can start our live. Please do join, and an announcement especially for the board students. You may subscribe and purchase our premium version so that you can get free mock tests, unlimited study materials, as well as the questions for the examination of your upcoming exam. Please do hurry and join the live session. A very good evening to all of you. Dear students, welcome to the another live session of Edwins. In previously, we have studied or discussed about the chemical coordination in animals, where we have been discussed about the chemical coordination that is internally happen in our body. Now, today's video, we will discuss about the physical coordination in animals. What is the physical coordination? Like if a dog barking or running behind me, what we will do? We will run. So this occasion or this incident occurs due to the physical activity of our body. So how this physical activity will done and why this is done, we will discuss it in this live session. So further delay, go for the topic. First of all, the response and physical coordination in animal is actually occurs through the nervous system. So what is nervous system? Nervous system is the body system. We will know that what is system in our body. Different organs make a system. Cell made tissue, tissue made an organ, and organs made a organ system. So the nervous system also made up of so many organs. A body system that regulate the physical activity in response to stimulus. What is stimulus? We have already discussed the physical or any chemical incident or matters that enhance or prohibit the body's normal condition. So in humans, the nervous system are divided into three parts. Okay. They are divided into three parts. What are they? They are central nervous system. Number one is central nervous system. Number two, peripheral nervous system. And number three, autonomic nervous system. In your syllabus, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system are elaborately discussed. So we will discuss it first, and lastly the autonomic nervous system that is divided into two parts, that is sympathetic and parasympathetic. Okay, so we will start with the autonomic nervous system, then go for the peripheral nervous system, then central nervous system. In central nervous system, there are two parts, that is brain. One is brain, another is spinal cord. In peripheral nervous system, that is there are two types of nerves, and in autonomic two types of nerves, that is cranial nerves and spinal nerves. And in autonomic nervous system, there are two types of nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic. So go for the autonomic nervous system. Sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system is nothing but the sympathetic nervous system which sympathize you or us in the condition of any emergency. Like I get some pain or fear, that body prepared ourselves, or this sympathetic nervous system prepared our body to overcome this fear or overcome this situation. So what it will do? It will increase the heartbeat. Okay, heartbeat increases. Next, blood circulation increases. Why? Because when the heartbeat is increases, it pumps lots of blood, and when the blood circulation increases, it circulates the blood throughout the body and muscles, so that every part of the body get this blood, and through this blood we will get the nutrition which will do the faster and more metabolic activities, where we can get the more ATP or energy. Like in the first example, that dog running or barking behind us. So we will run. When we will run, it needs lots of energy and also lots of nutrition for the cell to produce this energy. So this is the sympathetic nervous system function. Okay, now in parasympathetic nervous system is exactly like sympathetic nervous system but in reverse. How? In parasympathetic nervous system, it stimulate or regulate the body from excited state to normal state. Okay, so the parasympathetic nervous system normalize the body condition, and it will do the body in normal state. It will do body in the normal state. Okay, so this is the function of autonomic nervous system. In now come to the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system is the nervous system just cut down the central nervous system. All over the body there have so many lots of nerves, and these nerves made the peripheral nervous system. So one term, that is nerves. So what is nerve? Before going to this discussion, the peripheral nervous system have two parts, that is cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Cranial nerves consist of 12 pairs of nerves. Like for example, olfactory nerves, olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlear, trigeminal, abducens. These nerves are cranial nerves. And spinal nerves, that are 31 pairs. Okay. What are the cranial nerves? Cranial nerves are the arises from brain, and spinal nerves that are arises from the spinal cord. Okay, so actually these nerves are arises from the central nervous system, the cranial nerves arises from the brain, and spinal nerves arises from the spinal cord. So the term, that is nerves. What is nerves? Okay, let's go for it. So, what is nerve? Okay, nerve is the bundle of nerve fiber. Okay, so now question is, what is nerve fiber? Before going to this discussion for nerve fiber, one important cell present in the nerve, that is neuron. From these cells, we will understand what is nerve fiber, etc. So, what is neuron? Neuron So, neuron is the structural and functional unit of nervous system. Okay. What is structural? Of course, we know that structural unit is the which made the system. Okay. And functional unit mean the function of the system regulated by these cells. This is also called the nerve cells. Okay. So, what is neuron? Neuron is the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. So, how does it looks like? It looks like our hand, like this. How? Okay. So, it almost look like this. These neurons are divided into two parts. One is cyton or cell body or soma. You have to remember both all these terms because the question may be presented any one of these terms. Okay, so this part is called the cyton or cell body, and the next part, that is the elongated part, is called axon. Okay, the neuron have two parts, one is cyton and one is axon. Okay. Okay. Next, this neuron contain, of course, this is a cell, this contain nucleus. But we know that nerve cell cannot divide. So there is the magic, that is in the nucleus, the chromosomes or DNA or chromosomes are locked into Z0 phase. Okay, so Z0 phase is the phase where the cell will rest. In cell division, we will go for the details in the Z0 phase, but for now, you can understand that the G0 phase is the resting phase of the cell, where the cell will rest. Okay, so that's why the neuron can or cannot, or the nerve cell cannot divide. Now, there are some granular structure which is called Nissel's granule. Okay, and the cytoplasmic part, of course, there we have a cell, of course, it have the cytoplasm, is known as neuroplasm. Okay, and also they have mitochondria, Golgi body, and one important for your SAQ, that is it have inactive centriole. Inactive centriole. What is the function of centriole? Centriole actually help in the cell division. Okay, so inactive mean the cells cannot divide, so that the centriole present but in inactive state. So this is the part of the cyton or cell body. Now next come to the part of the nerve, axon part. This axon part actually covered with a layer that is called neurolemma. Okay, first covering of this axon part is called neurolemma. First covering of this is the full part is called axon. This is called nerve fiber. This part is covered by first covering, that is neurolemma. Secondly, it is but the second layer of this part, that is like this. Okay, so this is called myelin sheath. Okay, this is called myelin sheath, and the neuron which have the myelin sheath is called myelinated neuron. A short question: what is myelinated neuron? Okay, the neuron contain myelin sheath is known as neuron. Sorry, myelinated neuron. Okay, what is myelinated neuron? And the junction between two myelin sheath, here is a gap. This gap and the layer of neurolemma is known as node of Ranvier. Okay, so this is the part of the nerve cell or neuron. After that, the continuation, this part, that is if this is a neuron, these are divided into like branches. Okay, so and these branches are contain like knob-like structure. So these branches are called axon, terminal, and these knobs are known as synaptic knob. Okay, so after this part, if I draw, that is like this. Okay, so this is the ending part, that is axon terminal, and the terminal have the knob like structure which is called synaptic knob. Okay, so this is the basic structure of a neuron or nerve cell. Now the types of neurons. What are the types of neurons? What types of neurons are present in our body? There are basically three types of neuron present in our body. What are they? The types of neuron. There are mainly three types. One is sensory neuron. Next one is the motor neuron. And another one is the adjuster neuron. These are the basic three types of neuron present in our body. So what is the sensory neuron? The sensory neuron is the neuron which carry the sense from the receptor. Now question is, what is receptor? Receptor is the body part that collect the signals. Okay, so the sensory neuron carry the sense from the receptor. What is receptor? Receptor is the body part that carry signals like skin. Is it is hot or cold, that is sensed by the skin. So this is the sensory neuron. Now the motor neuron. What is motor neuron? Motor neuron which carry the response from the CNS, that is central nervous system, to the effector. Okay, now question is, what is effector? Effector is the body part or glands that responds to a certain signal. What is this? Like an example, in emergency condition, the glands, that is suppose the adrenal gland which is located upon the kidney or above the kidney, it secrete epinephrine or adrenaline. So CNS or central nervous system relay the signal and it reaches to the adrenaline gland. Or suppose an example, a mosquito bite on my right hand, the left hand, the right hand automatically go there and pat the mosquito. So the muscles of the right hand is the effector. Now third one is the adjuster. What is adjuster? Adjuster means the neurons which connect the sensory and motor nerves. Okay, so these are the three types of neurons, of course, motor nerves or neuron. Okay, this is called the adjuster neuron. Okay, so these are the three types of neurons, that is sensory, motor and adjuster. Now question is, what is the relation between the nerves and neurons? Still the question. So connection between nerve and neuron. Okay, so first the neuron. Now you will understand that nerves only made up of the nerve fiber. What is nerve fiber? The axon. So the nerve made up of axon, but not one axon. Nerve is the bundle of axon. Okay. So nerves are the bundle of axon. The nerve cell or the nerve fiber, first a bundle of nerves covered with the connective tissue layer, that is epineuroleum. Okay, the first one is the epineuroleum. The next second layer is the perineuroleum, and the third one is the endoneuroleum. Okay, these are the three connective tissue layer covered the axon or the nerve fiber which will form the nerve. So now the nerve also in two forms, that is sensory nerve and motor nerve, and another one is the mixed nerve. So what are the types of nerves? Okay. Number 1 is the sensory. Number 2 is the motor. And number 3 is the mixed. Okay. So what is sensory? Of course, carry, sense. Example, that is optic nerve. Motor, carry responses, and mixed nerve carry both. Okay, the motor nerve is example hypoglossal, and the mixed nerve, number 1 is the vagus, number 2 is the facial. These are the mixed nerve. This example of mixed nerve is very important for your exam. That is, give any one example of the mixed nerve. This is the mixed nerve. Now, one term is synapse. So, before going to the synapse, we will know now that we have already known that the sense or the stimulus carried by the neuron, but is it carried by the one neuron? No, there are several and lakhs neurons are present in our body. So okay, what is synapse? Synapse is the junctional part. Okay, junctional part of the two neuron. That is one neuron ending with the like these structures. Okay, and another neuron starts with these structures, right? And here the branches, these are called dendron, and their branches are dendrites. So this is the one axonal terming, and this is the starting of the neuron, that is one dendron. And the gap junction between one neuron, between the two neuron, is known as synapse. Okay, this is called synapse. Okay, so what happens? So we have know that the neurons are not fused or joined together. They are located just a small gap or left a small gap between them, which is known as synapse. So what is the function of synapse? One thing, that is, the neurons carry the electrical signals through the neuron body. They carry the electrical signals. Okay, so these electrical signals came to the synaptic nerve. Now these electrical signals converted into the chemical signal. So the response or the stimulus or the response are coming out from the previous neuron as a package of a chemical, which is known as neurotransmitter. Okay, these chemicals are known as neurotransmitter. One common example is the acetylcholine. Okay, give an example of neurotransmitter. This is acetylcholine. So these neurotransmitter are released from the previous or the before neurons. Okay, the next these neurotransmitter get attached to the receptor of the next neuron, which give the signals, and from these the chemical signals again converted into electrical signals. Okay, so the form is first electric from the neuron and to the chemical in the synapse, then again electric in the neuron. Okay, now another term, that is the neurotransmitter passes through which path is known as synaptic cleft. What is synaptic cleft and what is synapse? What is the difference? Synapse is the gap junction between two neurons, and synaptic cleft is the functional region, that is the path where the neurotransmitter passes from the previous neuron to the post neuron. Okay, so this is the basic difference of the synapse and synaptic path. So that is about synapse and how the signals or responses transmitted through one neuron to the another neuron. Okay, okay, now we have completed the peripheral nervous system, that is neuron, nerves. What is nerves? What is the relation between nerves and neurons? And what is the synapse? What is synaptic cleft, etc. Now came to the central nervous system. Okay, one term in peripheral nervous system or PNS, that's I really forgot, that is ganglia or ganglion. What is ganglia or ganglion? The nerves or the neurons going, and a bulge portion is arises from it. This is nothing but the cell body. Okay, and this cell body or bulge out structure is known as ganglion. Ganglion in singular and ganglia in the plural. Okay, this is the ganglia or ganglion. What is the function? It mainly provide nutrition to the nerves. Okay, so this is the ganglia or ganglion. Now came to the central nervous system. In central nervous system, there have two types of or two parts in the central nervous system. What are they? One is brain, another one is spinal cord. Okay, so the brain of the human have divided into three parts: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Okay. The forebrain consists of three parts. One is cerebral cortex, okay, or this is also known as cerebrum. Number two is thalamus. And three is hypothalamus. Okay, these are the main three parts of the brain. So, cerebral is the major part of the brain which control the emotion, okay, and memory. Okay. Next, the thalamus, which connect the cerebrum and hypothalamus. Cerebrum and hypothalamus. Okay, and also it regulate the certain function of glands. Okay, this is the function of thalamus. Number three is the hypothalamus, which regulate the secretion of the endocrine glands. Okay, so this is the part of the forebrain: cerebral cortex, thalamus, and hypothalamus, and these are the functions. Now, brain is protected by a hard layer that is called brain box or cranium. Okay, and also it is covered with, this is protected, and this is covered with three-layered membrane which is named as meninges. Okay, and the three layers are dura mater, arachnoid, and pia mater. Okay, so one is, that is, brain is protected by a hard layering that is called cranium or brain box, and it is covered by a three-layered membrane that is called meninges, and these meninges are composed of three layers, that is dura mater, outer, middle arachnoid matter, and third is the pia mater. And between these membranes there have a special fluid that is called cerebrospinal fluid or CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, now come to the midbrain. Midbrain, one thing, that is, these thalamus and hypothalamus are togetherly called diencephalon. cephalon. Okay. So if the forebrain parts, if I told that cerebral cortex or cerebrum and the encephalon, or the cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus. The midbrain actually presents just below the forebrain and before the cranium. Before the cerebellum. So what is cerebellum? We will study in hindbrain. So midbrain function is regulate the respiration plus the gland secretion. Okay, especially the salivary. Okay, this is the function of midbrain. Now the hindbrain is composed of three parts. What are they? Number one is cerebellum. Number two is pons. And number three is medulla oblongata. Okay, these are the three parts. Except the cerebellum, this part is called brain stem. So brain stem made up of pons and medulla oblongata like this. Like this. So this part is called pons and this is the medulla oblongata. So what is the function of cerebellum? Cerebellum location just behind the midbrain and just behind the midbrain and the pons. The function of cerebellum is to body balancing. To balance the body when we are running, we are working or doing any physical activity. Okay, pons regulate the respiration as well as the heartbeat. Okay, and medulla oblongata do the involuntary activities. Regulate the involuntary activities. What are the involuntary activities? Like peristaltic movement, like contraction and relaxation of any involuntary muscles. So these are the functions of the brain and this is the structure of the brain. Now come to the spinal cord. Now the spinal cord. Okay, spinal cord is look like, if I draw a section of the spinal cord, it will look like this. Okay, this is a section of the spinal cord which is located inside the vertebral column. Location inside the vertebral column. Okay, and this is called neural canal. Okay, this part is called gray matter. Both term, that is GREY and GRAY, both are true. Okay, so this is called gray matter and the outer part is called white matter. What is the concept of gray matter and white matter? Gray matter composed of the axon and white matter composed with the cell body. And this is called sulcus and this is called fissure. This is the posterior part and this is anterior part. Okay, and the sensory neuron, this is the sensory neuron and arises the motor neuron. Okay, so this is the basic structure of the spinal cord which is located inside the vertebral column and this is also the vertebral column. It is also contain CSF or cerebrospinal fluid like brain just after the layer or covering of the spinal cord. Okay, so what is the function of spinal cord? The function mainly control the reflex action. Now the question is, what is reflex action? So go for the reflex action. Okay, so reflex action is the action which is regulated by the spinal cord. We know in central nervous system there are two parts, that is brain and spinal cord, but reflex action specially regulated by the spinal cord only. The action which is controlled by brain is not considered as a reflex action. So in reflex action, if this is a part of spinal cord. A sensory neuron arises from this, and motor neuron arises from this. So the sense, if I touch a hot plate, okay, so through this sensory neuron, if this is a hot plate, through the sensory neuron, the stimulus go to the spinal cord and into the gray matter, and immediately the motor nerves arrange or carry the response to the muscles of the hand, muscles of these hands, and to remove the hand from the hot plate. So this is the effector, this is the motor nerve, and this is the sensory nerve, which is a quick action for the body that is regulated by the spinal cord. And this action, if I touch a hot plate, immediately I remove from the hot plate, and this is happens due to the reflex action. When I touch the hot plate, the sensory neuron carry the signals to the spinal cord, and immediately the spinal cord send the response through the motor nerve, and it reaches to the muscles of the hand, and immediately the hand removed from the hot plate. This is the reflex action. So what is the importance? That is, it saves the time. Why? Because if I put the hand for a minute, and our brain will compose the actions in response to the sense of the hot plate placed on the hand, our hand placed on a hot plate, which will take so many time, and in that time our hand will burn out. Okay, so the function, the significance of reflex action actually to save the time and immediate action. Okay, now one thing is, what is the role of brain in reflex action? So for this, like a child, if a child placed a hand on the hot plate, he or she will not able to remove the hand immediately. Why? Because they do not have this memory into their brain. So if once in our life any incident which is happened to us, and the memory or the response memory stored into our brain, and this, for this memory the reflex action will held. So the function of brain is very important in the reflex action. Why? To memorize this incident, that if I put my hand in the hot plate, it will burn up. So the function of the brain is very important. So the storage, for this storage, it will send to the spinal cord, and the response is stored inside the spinal cord in the gray matter, in this gray matter, and that's why the reflex action able to occur. Okay, so this is the action, or this is the function of nervous system, how it will function for our body, and how it will defend our body in any adverse condition or any emotional condition. So that's all for the today's video in part 1. If you want to part 2, please stay with us, and also if you like to get more such informative video, you may subscribe our YouTube channel Edwins. Also you may follow, like and comment in our Facebook page Edwins. Thank you.